these activist judges that are blocking Trump's agenda. In other words, they said, don't send people, you catch MS-13 members, don't send them back to Venezuela from, I don't know, New York. Well, they said, well, let's go to Texas and send them from Texas. Another judge says, no, you can't do it from Texas either. Supreme Court, tell us where all this legal wrangling, how do we end up with so many activist judges?
Like, this is the problem that we have. We have a lot of activist judges that Obama, and even Bush appointed that I deal with every day. And it's not just this issue. It's many issues. They have no respect for the Constitution, and the only check on them, since they have lifetime appointments, is Congress. Congress can impeach them. And if there's no other reason for impeaching a judge than that they will not follow the Constitution, it seems to me there should be some accountability, and Congress has that ability.
Do they have to be congressionally impeached? Can they be removed, I don't know, by justice?
No, just impeachment. I mean, even if they've committed crimes, they have lifetime appointments. And the founders wanted them independent. They also viewed them as the least powerful branch of government. They have become more powerful because they've stepped in, like they're trying to step into Trump's shoes and run the executive branch, make decisions for him because they disagree with him politically. That is not their role. And they need to be brushed back with a pitch, at least some type of pitch. Somebody needs to be impeached so that they get the message that this is not something you can do.
Yeah, another activist judge just said they put a halt on Trump's pulling back or at least pausing some of the funding of the schools that he said stop with the DEI programs. The schools said no. He said I'm going to pull back funding, and the judge said no. You have to continue funding.
How can a judge have control over funding?
Understand this.
They don't have control. That is not their role. They have literally no control of the purse strings. That's Congress. When the money's been appropriated, and the executive branch has the opportunity to implement those policies. And if he's deciding that they're violating federal law or violating policy, then he can stop it. It's certainly a judge can't.
I've been doing this a long time, Attorney General. The executive branch, the judicial branch, I mean, clearly it's a checks and balances system, but when the judicial branch overrides the executive branch, is that in the Constitution? I mean, how can the judicial branch override the executive when he's the commander-in-chief?
So they have the opportunity to interpret laws and determine whether something's constitutional or not constitutional. So if President Trump is violating the Constitution, then they have the right to say so. But in this case, he's managing the government, and his job is to oversee immigration and to deal with it. Their job is not to decide whether they like his policies. Now, if they have a problem, for instance, we got a national injunction because Joe Biden decided I'm not deporting anybody anymore. Well, guess what? That is not. He has to deport people. That is his job, and we got an injunction stopping him from deporting people, and so that's legitimate.
If Trump disobeys even a Supreme Court edict, what happens?
I mean, it's up for question. I guess they can hold in contempt. It would be an interesting question. I mean, if they are overstepping their bounds and he says no, I mean, I guess the left would say we have a constitutional crisis, but we already have a little bit of a constitutional crisis right now.
Right, it's undecided as it's undecided law right now.
Honestly,
because Joe Biden famously went around Congress and with the student loan forgiveness, went to the Supreme Court, and I believe he still was able to get some money out after Supreme Court said no.
Yeah, he lost all the cases, and he pretty much did it anyway. So, I mean, there's certainly precedent for a president saying, I'm not following what a court says, and some of them have done it in violation of laws already in place, and some have said, no, there are no laws in place stopping me from doing this. I'm doing it.
I'm going to have a little fun interpretation of law or constitutionality. 2028 comes, J.D. Vance wins the elections, says my vice president is Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance says, I just don't have the heart for this guy, so I'm going to step aside. What happens?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer because it's never happened. And certainly Donald Trump could be vice president. There's no doubt in my mind that would be constitutional. The question is, could he serve a third term because he stepped up because Vance, for some reason, couldn't serve or didn't want to serve? Don't know the answer. I think that would be an interesting question.
Might be worth a try. I have about a minute and a half or so. This whole idea of not deporting Abrego Garcia because the left is saying, well, he deserves due process. Due process. Number one, due process, is it constitutional? Does a non-citizen get due process? Probably, but you tell me. And then also, at some point when you violate your court order to appear or don't leave, do you still deserve due process? And by the way, isn't that due process already?
Well, I'm not sure. First of all, that if you're a non-citizen, you Joe Biden let you in the country. So do we have to have due process for all 14 million people? I don't know that's true. These are not people that are recognized under our Constitution as citizens. They're not supposed to be here. They should be deported immediately. We don't need any kind of hearing. If they are not supposed to be here, they should be deported. Otherwise, this will never happen. If we have to go through court proceedings for every one of these people, especially people who are committing crimes, we know this guy has a criminal history. He's a bad guy. He's a gang member. He's got a bad history. We have to be able to get rid of bad people that just walk across the border.